Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. A former Northwest Territories teacher is appearing at the Yellowknife courthouse for a trial. Neil Barry is facing 3 counts of sexual assault and 3 counts of sexual exploitation. The Crown alleges the sexual offenses involved 4 boys, then aged 16 to 18, and occurred between 2007 and 2011. During this time, Barry worked as a teacher and basketball coach in Touyak, NWT. Jurors also heard an agreed statement of facts. This included testimony from Barry's ex-wife, Kathleen Barry. In 2020, she told RCMP that, quote, things happened between Barry and the boys. RCMP began investigating shortly after, and Barry was formally charged in 2021. He is pleading not guilty to all the charges. The trial is expected to last just over 2 weeks, and the verdict will be decided by a jury. A 79-year-old woman has been found dead in the village of Pevernattuk in Nunavik. Police were called around 10:30 p.m. on Monday. They found the woman inside a home and transported her to a hospital where she was pronounced dead. A Sûreté de Quebec spokesperson says circumstances surrounding the death are unclear. Investigators have met with one person, though no arrests have been made. Investigations are continuing. Arctic sovereignty has emerged as a major theme in this federal election campaign. It's brought politicians to the north to make big announcements about protecting the region. But some Nunavummiut feel that attention is overshadowing more pressing issues. Samuel Watt has that story.
The words on the lips of many party leaders.
Arctic sovereignty is a strategic priority of our government.
Our sovereignty and our interests.
With Donald Trump attacking our very sovereignty.
There's rising interest in the region and threats from the likes of America, Russia and China, and some Nunavummiut, like activist R.U. Peter, are concerned.
I take it very seriously.
Though she believes there are other issues Canada has to solve, and they're ones we can't blame other countries for.
I mean, we have the highest food insecurity, we lack housing, we lack jobs, we don't even have a university.
Kugaruk's Vincent Ningak agrees. He believes there are still broken promises from Ottawa which stem back to the days of forced resettlement of Inuit.
Sovereignty is, for me, it's an excuse to divert what we actually need in Nunavut.
Premier PJ Ahiagok believes Arctic sovereignty is about healthy communities. That, he says, can be achieved through infrastructure projects like the Grays Bay Porton Road and the Kivalliq hydrofibre network. The main takeaway from him is that any talk about the North must include the voices of the North, something for federal leaders to remember as we enter the last sprint to Election Day. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
The Alberta government is proceeding with Bill 26, which bans gender-affirming care for youth under 16. This includes puberty blockers and hormone therapy. This affects youth in the NWT, as the territory relies on Alberta for those services. Now, in the midst of an election, candidates and advocates are weighing in on the issue. The CBC's Avery Zingle has that story.
Yellowknife's Northern Mosaic Network Executive Director Chelsea Thacker says Alberta's legislation is putting gender-diverse youth at risk. The bill bans the provision of puberty blockers and hormone therapy to youth.
I think it's important that this is on the federal agenda because it's life-saving care.
CBC spoke with a parent of transgender children in Yellowknife, and we're not naming them over safety concerns. The parent says going through a puberty that doesn't match your gender is harmful.
This can bring on some serious psychological issues, anxiety, depression, body dysmorphia, which could lead to self-harm and to suicide. So that's when the puberty blockers are brought in.
In response to the Northern Mosaic Network survey, Liberal candidate in the NWT, Rebecca Alty, says she will defend against political attacks targeting the 2S LGBTQIA community, and she completely opposes Bill 26. NDP candidate Kelvin Cochillia and Green Party candidate Angela Davidson, who goes by Rainbow Eyes, both support access to gender-affirming care.
We do have constituents that want to tap into the service and want to have this recognition.
It's about the wellness of the people, and they must be supported.
Conservative candidate Kimberly Fairman declined an interview, but federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has previously said he thinks youth should not have access to puberty blockers.
Puberty blockers for minors?
Yes.
Do you agree
with that? Do you agree with that?
I think that we should protect children and their ability to make adult decisions when they are adults.
5 Alberta families and their gender-diverse children launched a charter challenge and injunction against Bill 26. Egal Canada lawyer Bennett Jensen, who represents the families, says much of the public discussion has been clouded by misinformation. He says puberty blockers are not permanent.
What we're really talking about is just giving young people the chance to figure themselves out and live lives that their doctors and their families, in most cases, support them in doing.
The injunction asks the court to protect youth access to puberty blockers and hormone therapy while the courts decide on Bill 26's constitutionality. Alberta's Premier, Danielle Smith, has said she's willing to use the notwithstanding clause to uphold the bill if necessary. Avery Zingle, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Checking in now with the federal party leaders. Liberal leader Mark Carney is confirming a Radio-Canada report that U.S. President Donald Trump did make a 51st state comment on their private phone call last month, a call he previously described as being respectful towards Canada's sovereignty.
The president has certain things in his mind that he reverts back to all the time, but treated me as the prime minister, not as something else. I'm not even going to say the word he used to use about my predecessor. We agreed as sovereign nations that these negotiations will begin after the election on Monday. And that is how it was reported back, and that's absolutely accurate.
That is Carney speaking during a campaign stop in Port Moody, BC. He was grilled on why he didn't mention Trump's comments in his original summary of the phone call back on March 28th. Carney made several other policy announcements during the campaign event. They included pledges to build 500,000 housing units per year, to revoke the gun licenses of violent offenders, and to disrupt illegal drug supply chains.
What's on the line in this election are working people and everyday families. That's what's on the line. That's what I'm focused on. We got 4 days left of this campaign, and we got working people out here. We got middle-class families out here wondering, who's going to fight for me? Who's going to stand up for me? I'm never going to back down for fighting for those folks.
That's NDP leader Jagmeet Singh in Winnipeg today. He is targeting traditional party supporters, trying to shore up the base before the election on Monday. Singh says when Liberals are given all the power, they abandon workers.
Well, we've got news for Mr. Carney. Canadians are taking back control of their lives for a change. A new Conservative government will axe the Carney tax.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre told supporters in Halifax he would scrap the electric vehicle sales mandate. The system introduces percentage quotas for new car sales next year. And Poilievre says the credit system in place for manufacturers missing those targets amounts to a sales tax on gas-powered vehicles. Poilievre's speech was dominated by accusations that the Liberal agenda was based on exorbitant taxation and would lead to higher inflation. The border town of Beaver Creek, Yukon, is the westernmost community in Canada and the main border crossing between the Yukon and Alaska. The CBC's Gordon Loverin recently visited Beaver Creek to see how residents feel about the upcoming federal election and learn about the town's relationship with its American neighbors.
In winter, Beaver Creek's population hovers around 80 people. Everyone here waits for the tourist season to start, usually around mid-May. For now, the talk around town is on the upcoming federal election. Buckshop Betty's is one of only 2 hospitality businesses that remains open year-round. Owner Carmen Hinson, better known as Buckshop Betty, says Donald Trump's threats to make Canada the 51st state doesn't sit well with folks in this border town.
No, I don't want to really become the 51st state. I think Canadians are pretty solid people, and they're, we're not really pushed around too much, but when we reached our limit, we stand pretty proud and,
I don't know how the tariffs are going to affect that, right? I'm sure they have already, and maybe even more.
Kelly Backstrom is a member of the White River First Nation. Beaver Creek sits within their traditional territory, but much of their living needs comes from Alaska because Whitehorse is 5 hours away. Affordability in this election is top of mind among members of her First Nation.
Some people go to Touyak, which is about an hour and a half drive, to do grocery shopping. With the money exchange, it's a lot. So it's often just mostly for drives to get a few things. But even with that, the exchange, and then these thoughts of tariffs, how is that going to affect the ability to go?
The Canada-U.S. border is 32 kilometers north of Beaver Creek. Members of the White River First Nation have relatives who call Alaska their home. The borderline between the two countries is clearly slashed along the landscape, yet the line is often blurred when it comes to dealing with Americans, at least from Buckshot Betty's point of view.
Canada's beautiful. We love Americans. We do our, we've always been a good, we go to Alaska, we go to the U.S. and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be good.
Traditionally, the area around Beaver Creek was home to the Upper Tanana people who camped there on their seasonal migrations. In the early 1900s, the settlement of Beaver Creek was established as a camp for the team surveying the Canada-Alaska border. Later, mining interest developed in the area, and in the 1940s, the Alaska Highway was constructed. In the mid-1950s, a Canada Customs post was built, and the community of Beaver Creek began to develop. Last year, almost 58,000 Americans went through the customs station into Canada. Relations between the two countries were relatively good. Now, with President Donald Trump in power, things have changed, and it's not known how Beaver Creek's tourism season will fare this summer. And that's something people here want to learn more about for this election.
I haven't heard a lot of the politicians talk about how the tariffs are affecting the Yukon. Like, you hear the words, but how is it going to affect us? Like, that's kind of a question I have.
Why can't we sit there and make a deal with Alaska? Alaska's kind of an independent state in a sense, so we should be able to talk with them, instead of having that border.
Within a few miles, there's a different set of pricing for items that you cannot live without in the Canadian North. It affects the community's bottom line, especially the independent businesses that rely on highway traffic.
I think the price of fuel is one thing. That's one thing that kind of, it's very high here, and it's, and it's funny, if you go across the border, it's not that high, but it's so high here. So that's one thing. And then the price of, I guess, groceries.
Life in a small border town may be quiet in the winter, but it's plenty of time for locals to wonder how Canada's federal election will affect them. No matter who wins on April 28th, Buckshot Betty knows what she's going to do.
It's what you make of it, I guess. You can't change what's going on. It's going to happen. So you just got to kind of work with it.
Gordon Lovren, CBC News, Beaver Creek, Yukon.
As you just heard from Gordon, the federal election is on April 28th, which is Monday. Voters are required to bring proof of identity to cast a ballot. But what if you don't have any government ID? That's the situation many homeless people are in. A spokesperson for Elections Canada says people who have no ID can use a letter of confirmation from a soup kitchen or shelter, or have someone vouch for their identity. Tony Burchett is the executive director for the Salvation Army in the Northwest Territories. He says this isn't much of an issue for his clients. The Salvation Army helps people who rely on its services get their IDs. But he says the requirement could be a problem for others.
For some of the folks who are chronically homeless, that could be a little bit of a battle for them. Now, they say that at the polling stations, they're going to make it as easy as possible, but when you don't have a fixed address, or sometimes, you got 5 or 6 individuals coming in giving our street location as your address, that can be questionable, and I'm not sure how we can work around that.
Burchett says his staff have vouched for clients at polling stations in the past. He says that he and his staff have been encouraging all their clients to get out to vote and will help in any way they can. And helping the unhoused vote is an issue that stretches across the country. Josh Crabb now tells us how some shelters in Winnipeg are working to eliminate hurdles.
He doesn't have a permanent address. Edward Parisian says that won't stop him from voting.
I always watch about it on the news about who's running, prepare and all that, and I noticed that they gave us a form and they told us it's voting time.
Parisian is staying at the Salvation Army's Centre of Hope, one of several homeless shelters in Winnipeg's inner city. Elections Canada wants to make sure people like Parisian can have their say on issues that directly affect them: the cost of living, homelessness, and a lack of affordable housing.
We go try to rent the place. It's hard to get a place because I don't know, there's not enough here.
Not having a place to live is one barrier to voting. So is a lack of identification, transportation, and access to campaign promises. Margot Ross with Siloam Mission says that shouldn't stop people from taking part.
We'll have drop-in staff who hold the strongest relationships with our community members, encouraging folks to go out and vote.
Elections Canada workers have been visiting shelters like Siloam Mission to give letters to staff so they can vouch for the people who use their services to prove their identity. Cindy Titus with Main Street Project says outreach workers helped 17 people vote in advance polls, and she says they're working to get more people out on Election Day.
The folks that we serve have a lot of other things going on, and that they made voting a priority in their days. That's a pretty big deal.
They're also providing information on the candidates and their platforms. Parisian compliments the effort to get more people to vote, but would like to see more outreach.
Maybe more people should come out here and walk around and tell us.
Parisian has voted before and hopes more people take advantage of the opportunity. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The claims period for 2 classes in the First Nations Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principal Settlement is now open.
First Nations children who were removed from their homes on reserve between April 1st, 1991 and March 31st, 2022, and their caregiving parents and caregiving grandparents can now submit a claim for compensation.
There are free supports to help you fill out your form.
And mental health and wellness supports if you need them.
Learn more and submit your claim at fnchildclaims.ca.
The federal election is on Monday, April 28th. Are you planning to vote? Check your voter information card or visit elections.ca to find out where and when to vote. Polls are open for 12 hours. Don't forget to bring accepted ID. If you're not registered to vote, you can register at your assigned polling station. It's our vote.
For the official information you need to vote, visit elections.ca or call 1-800-463-6868.
Are you an aspiring songwriter? Do you want your song to be part of Nunavut's cultural heritage? Let's celebrate 10 years of Inuktitut songwriting with this year's themes, Piluk sa Tilunga and Inuit Sanasimayangit. For contest rules and more information about Kilo 2025, visit www.gov.nu.ca. The deadline for submissions is May 5, 2025.
Three young boxers from Delaunay NWT have just returned from a special trip to Edmonton. They're part of the Delaunay Boxing and Fitness Club, a small volunteer-run gym that's making a difference in the community by helping youth build confidence and healthier habits. Sarah Chmielewski has the story.
So Tyrell, you're just doing basic combinations. Coda, you're going to be pulling and jabbing?
Youth from Delaunay Boxing and Fitness are showing off their skills at the CBC North office in Yellowknife. In the small Northwest Territories community, the volunteer-run boxing gym is having a big impact. It was started by community member Tyrone Yukon. A longtime boxer, he wanted to share the sport with others to promote healthy living.
It's there for anybody that's in Delaunay and wants to, learn the basic boxing or just break a sweat.
The program started about 3 years ago, with the Delaunay government providing the funding and space. About 20 people now attend regularly, using the gym for both boxing and weight training.
Every time I go to the boxing gym, in the bad mood, just going there and finishing a good workout, boxing, going on the heavy bag, and coming out, it just feels good and just it really helps get rid of that stress.
Nayeli and 2 other boxers recently traveled to Edmonton for a boxing clinic. They got to spar with new opponents and improve their skills.
It was my first time stepping into actual ring and working out, and also just practicing boxing and learning new skills and all that. It's actually very nice learning those.
Coach Tyrone says he's proud of how far the young boxers have come. He's hoping to bring boxing to other Sahtu communities so more people can experience the benefits. Sarah Chmielewski, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The Yukon government wants to entice people who left the territory for higher education to come home. Yukon Premier Ranch Pillay says one way to do that is to make it easier for those people to own a home. Pillay announced a new housing program to meet that goal. The program will help first-time homeowners by covering up to 50% of a down payment with a low-interest loan. The loan can be repaid after people pay off their mortgage or sell their home. Applications will be taken on a first-come, first-served basis. Applicants must be pre-approved for a mortgage, and priority will be given to people who received the Yukon grant. That's a long-standing grant for Yukon students entering post-secondary education.
My focus on working with the team was to ensure not only that young professionals that are coming here, but really we have so many people again that are coming back. And I think it's really important that those individuals do have an opportunity to come back into the market.
The opposition Yukon Party says the idea is a rehash of a program dating back to when it was in power. The Liberal government cancelled it after taking office. The Yukon government is earmarking $1 million for the project. It's part of this year's budget, which goes in front of the legislature next week. A group that says it represents some Inuit in Labrador will fight Memorial University over a drafted policy that doesn't recognize it. Memorial University is currently developing its new Indigenous verification policy. The policy would require Indigenous students and faculty to verify their Indigenous identity to access certain grants, scholarships, and jobs. Self-declaration would no longer be enough. Nunatuavut represents 6,000 self-identifying Inuit in Labrador, but it's not officially recognized by Inuit Tapiriit Kanatami, Canada's national Inuit body. Nunatuavut's president says he was shocked at the university's decision. He says his ancestors fought in the wars that Memorial University is named for.
And this is how our university repays that sacrifice, by kicking out their family, kicking out their relatives, not recognizing them, dehumanizing them. So yes, we will fight this with everything that we have. We will fight in the courts. We will fight in the legislatures. We will fight in the halls of Memorial University. And we will fight on the ground. If we have to, we will occupy that university.
In contrast, Nunatsiavut President Johannes Lamp says the policy creates a fair academic environment for Inuit youth. He says it ensures opportunities intended for Indigenous people are not diverted by, quote, false claims.
This is about protecting rights when Indigenous specific opportunities
are addressed by those with no legitimate community ties, it harms our people, especially Inuit students and scholars who rely on those supports. This policy helps to close the door to fraudulent claims that undermine Inuit rights, culture, and history.
The university is accepting public input on the draft policy until May 2nd. In Nunavut, the Anglican church in Touyak continues to seek money after a devastating fire damaged the building in 2023. Earlier this month, it received a significant donation. The owner of Two Oceans Outfitting, a local sport hunting company, arranged hunting excursions to raise money. Gary Adams says the excursions led to more than $20,000 being raised.
We always try to give back to some kind of a charitable thing for the various communities that we work with. We were able to donate a $13,500 to go to their church, and then one of our clients, an American hunter, Brandon Goodwin, graciously donated $5,000, and he was able to get a chapter of Safari Club International to match his donation of $5,000. So the total that we were able to raise was $23,500.
The money will help rebuild the church. The church's leader says he was moved by the generous donation.
We thank the outfitters very much. They helped to collect funds for a new church.
To date, $33,000 has been raised to help rebuild the church. The target is $300,000. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
By voting NDP, you've helped to build this country. Healthcare for families, pensions for workers. And even when we're not in power, do Democrats get things done for people, like dental care? It's because of you. Because you vote NDP, we can make life better for ordinary people, not the billionaires, and stand up to any government that wants to cut the things that we value. Vote NDP and make sure we're there, fighting for our kind of Canada, fighting for you.
Hi, it's Yaya.
Am I a loser?
No job, no home.
No clue.
Really?
I need a fresh start. No. Hire me. I want to make our community a better place. Sup, kids?
Are you a drug dealer?
every week the issues that matter to Canadians, connecting politics to people.
Canada is not for sale.
Join me for Rosemary Barton Live.